Hello friends and enemies, welcome back to Happy For Now. It's me Isabel here with a video idea I got / took from Heather over at Adhd Booktubes. This is my bookish buzzwords, the things that will make me one click a book. So there are certain things that get thrown around a lot, and let me say there are very specific things on my list that I would say will either immediately make me go put that book on hold, get it off of KU, which means returning something I already have checked out, or buy the book if it's on sale. And it's not a huge list for me, but I have some key buzzwords here that will do me in right away. These are my like tropes, the things I just love to see in my romances. I love to read about that I don't always find a lot of. Some of these I do find a lot, but it just varies wildly. I'm not gonna rec specific books with these tropes. I may throw up some covers of ones that have these tropes just for y'all to like have reference to what I'm talking about. But some of them are just kind of basic enough that I feel like I don't need to give you a book to go with it. So to start, we'll start with one of my all-time favorites, and that is Grumpy Sunshine. This, for me, just hits the spot. I often have mentioned on here that I feel like Grumpy Sunshine is my marriage at many times. I am definitely the sunshine one more often than not in my relationship, and my partner is pretty grumpy. And even if they're not grumpy, people assume they're grumpy, and it's just a whole thing. But yeah, I love Grumpy Sunshine, particularly when we get to see the grumpy one take care of the sunshine one in ways that are like very sweet and maybe not expected, because I think that's the thing where Grumpy Sunshine stands out to me, is like they may be grumpy with everyone else, but then like the person they like, that sunshine, needs a thing, and they're like over here like caretaking. Hits the spot every time. I freaking love it. I love it so much. On that note, there's also hates everyone but the partner or the love interest, and I have a huge soft spot for this as well, because I just think it's really funny when it's like this really gruff alpha type hero who is like kind of like, I don't want to deal with anyone, and then like the love interest shows up and they're like kind of nice. Well, not kind of nice, they're like super nice to them and sweet and like kind of bend over backwards for them. Love that. Absolutely love that. I love to see that happen. I love to watch what they do for them and how they do different things for them than they would for other people. Again, caretaking plays into that. Yes, caretaking is definitely one of the things I love in a book. The other thing I love is, I don't like enemies to lovers, but I love a rivals to lovers. So I think enemies to lovers usually isn't fleshed out enough for me, nor do we have enough backstory for a real reason for them to dislike each other. But I love when we take two people that are like workplace rivals or rivals in a field, and they bone and get it out of their system, and it's like that kind of thing. And instead of becoming rivals, they become like, because like I feel like rivals already respect each other to an extent, but like they start to respect each other and care for each other, and I just absolutely love to see that. Love to see that happen. Another thing that will make me one click is hate sex, or like the fucking get it out of our system. I love when that happens. So I feel like these two kind of pair together, because sometimes it's pseudo hate sex or like let's fucking get this out of our system sex. It is so good when that happens. I don't feel like I find it a lot in books done really well, but whenever I do find it, I'm just like, yes, this is what I want. So when people are like pushing a book as having it, I usually will pick it up because I just have to find out for myself. Then we're gonna get into my monsters. I am notorious for one-clicking a monster book. We know this, it's not surprising. If you're new here, you're probably surprised, but if you're not, I feel like you're not surprised. I love a monster, I love a demon, I love horns. I will one-click that book. I also love a weird penis situation. I am gonna say that this is partly spurred on by Ice Planet Barbarians, but also because I just think it's interesting to see how creative authors get as we've branched out into further and further monster related books. Now, I think the weird penis thing comes in also because it's just interesting to see what authors come up with, you know, and sometimes you're just like, that's an interesting choice. So I will one click a lot of weird penises, because if that's a buzzword, I'm just curious. How are you gonna make that work? What is it gonna do? What is it gonna be different from like our Ice Planet and other things we've experienced? Like, I Married a Lizard Man with the little like thing, you know. I'm just curious. What are you gonna do with that? Where are we going? Something else that makes me one click is positive sex work representation in a book. I think we owe a lot to sex workers as a society and for how we treat them. I'm very pro sex work here, and I don't think we treat sex workers fairly or well in our country, where I currently reside in the United States. And I think it's really fun to get a book that really does a good representation of sex workers and doesn't vilify them and like really tackles the topic. It doesn't happen often, but I do enjoy seeing it in my romances, because again, everyone deserves love and romance and happily ever after, and that doesn't always mean stopping your job that involves sex work. Like, they can coexist. So love to see that. Again, not a common one, but I do love it. Next is another one that I feel like is no big surprise, pegging. If you tell me your book has pegging, I'm buying it and I'm reading it. End of story. Always and forever. Part of the pegging cabal here. A bunch of us joined forces and got a Fated Mates episode sponsored to talk about pegging in books. I've done a pegging rec video and a pegging TBR video. I still need to read some of those. I really like when a book has pegging. It's a fun time and we don't get enough of it. So more pegging, please. Something else that will make me one click a book is plus size representation. If there's a plus size woman on that cover, more than likely I'm buying that book. If I have friends who've talked about the book and are like wrecking it as good plus size representation, I am buying that book. I love reading about plus size heroines. I myself am a small fat, and I love seeing people with bodies like mine on the page getting their happily ever after. I also am a big fan of good bisexual representation, because often, unfortunately, bisexual representation is not done well in romance. We are often labeled as a slut or a whore, or we're gonna sleep around, we're gonna cheat. It's a whole thing, and it drives me up a fucking wall. So when I see bisexual rep like actually being promoted in a book, meaning you most likely did the work if you're gonna promote it as having this, I'm gonna click on the book and read it. I love good bisexual rep. I get so tired of being vilified as someone who identifies as queer or bisexual, kind of in the both camps for that one. And yeah, it's a hard one to find enough of, a lot of in books, in romances especially, like I said, where it's not like a bad thing. And whenever I do, I'm always just so excited to read it. Another thing that will make me also one click a book is ADHD representation. So I have ADHD, I've talked about before on my channel. And because of that, I love reading about, especially if I can get a heroine with ADHD in the book. Oh my gosh, I'm like through the moon excited, because often we will get it with male heroes or male love interests, but I love reading about a heroine who also has ADHD and getting to see myself reflected back in that. And it's just something I don't get often enough. So will one click. Next, we have one of my favorite tropes, which is morality chain. This is another trope that I feel like is often hard to find. We do find it some in mafia romances and like serial killer romances. This is where the love interest is only good because they love the love interest. So basically they are tied to the love interest to be morally good or superior, and the love interest kind of gives them the reason to be morally good. And I love to see that so much, because I just think it's such an interesting trope. And I think it's a trope that, like I said, isn't done often, and it isn't done well often when it is done. Next, we have one that I stole from Heather, which I do agree with, is a violent meet cute. So like when they meet by like fighting or in danger, I love that. You know, maybe he's got a knife to her throat, she's got a knife to his throat. Yes, always and forever, give me the violent meet cute. I will one click a violent meet cute. I also love Fated Mates, hence my love of Immortals After Dark. I adore Fated Mate books. And I think that they're just so fun to see how the couple's still gonna come together. They may be fated. We may get those little tingly feels about they're having and hear about them, but we still have to see how they're gonna come together and become a couple. Even as Fated Mates, like there's still obstacles to overcome, and I just love a Fated Mate situation. Last but not least is one that I don't read a ton and I have struggles finding, and that's Marriage in Trouble, or like a second chance marriage situations, because I always find these interesting now. As someone who's been married for 11 years, I used to not like these, but I can see now how they can work, and it varies. Like what happened that tore them apart will affect my enjoyment of the book and if I want to read it. But generally speaking, I love A Marriage in Trouble because I like seeing how you know, life and marriage isn't 100% happy times, and I think it's really good to see that represented in a romance, and to see that, like, you know, couples can come back together and find themselves in a really nice way, and I love to see that. I really do love to see that. And I think that's what makes Marriage in Trouble so enjoyable to me, is that I can read these books and, you know, see not similar obstacles necessarily that I faced in my marriage, but things that I know, like, friends that have been married as well have faced, etc. And I just love seeing them, like, find love with each other again because they grew apart. It's just, like, I love it. It's so fun. So I think that's all of my bookish buzzwords. Let me know some of your bookish buzzwords in the comments. Let me know if you want a rec video for any of these buzzwords. Happy to do so. And if you don't want to do that, leave me a B in the comments. And I will have links to any books I threw up on the screen here during this for y'all, because I know I threw up a couple examples, I'm sure, for like some of the tropes. I'll have links for those down below, as well as links to my friend anywhere on the internet, and I will talk to y'all in just a few days. Bye!
Already packing, come with me. I'm not really asking, we'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions, we'll get away.